were we asking the wrong question? Instead of asking, how can we harmonize these differences, should we instead have been asking, why are these differences here to begin with?
So, we approach Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we know the synoptic gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke. What are you zeroing in on that book?
Well, the greatest objection today against the historical reliability of the Gospels is that they contain differences. They report things differently. And a lot of times, readers of the Bible, of the Gospels, don't see this because they will read Matthew in its entirety, and then they'll go to Mark and read that, and then same with Luke, same with John. But if you were to take the same stories and just say, like Jesus' baptism, and that's found in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and so you just read the baptism in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, well, then you'll notice some differences. If you take the crucifixion scene, you'll notice some differences. So let's go back to the baptism. So for example, you'll see in Mark and Luke, when Jesus comes out of the water, the voice from heaven, God's voice says, "You are my beloved Son, in you I'm well pleased." When you read the story in Matthew, the voice from heaven says, "This is my beloved Son, in him I'm well pleased." The difference, of course, is in Mark and Luke, God is addressing Jesus directly, whereas in Matthew, he's addressing the crowd, the witnesses. Well, which one was it? Or you can look and you'd say, well, the crucifixion scene. It seems that Mark states pretty clearly that Jesus was crucified the 3rd hour at 9 a.m., but John says it was the 6th hour. Now, some try to say, well, one's Roman time, the other's Jewish time, but there are other problems involved there. It's not only the time, it's also the day on which Jesus was crucified. You've got the thing in Matthew and Mark, it says the woman anointed Jesus 2 days before Passover. In John, it's 6 days before Passover, and I could go on and on. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to understand these. Now, books have been written on these, and what they tried to do is to harmonize these differences. You've heard it said like people, it's like different people viewing a car accident from different angles. They're going to explain it differently. But it's more than that. Did the woman anoint Jesus 2 days or 6 days before Passover? That can't be explained by different views of the same car accident. So what I did was I read through the Gospels 8 times in Greek up to that point, and I made a list of all the differences that I could find, and you see them a lot more clearly in Greek, the original language in which they were written. And I put together a list of more than 50 pages of these differences. At the same time, I noticed that there were people who were saying, like Richard Burridge in his book, What Are the Gospels? And Craig Keener and David Awney and some others were saying that the Gospels are Greco-Roman biographies. They weren't writing Jewish biographies of the sages back in the 1st century. We don't know why, they just weren't. So Greco-Roman biography is the only game in town. So if I go back to Greco-Roman biographies like Suetonius's Lives of the 12 Divine Caesars, or Plutarch's Lives and things like that, what kind of rules were they using back then? And they reported with a flexibility of details that we wouldn't necessarily use today. So I wanted to learn what were their rules and then take those and apply it to the Gospels to see if that what kind of light that might shed on the differences. Were we asking the wrong question? Instead of asking, how can we harmonize these differences, should we instead have been asking, why are these differences here to begin with? And I found that that is the more appropriate question to ask. And if we approach the Gospels a little bit differently and view them through the lenses of 1st century biography, it's amazing how many of these differences just vanish because we can understand why they're there.